Before I start the review for Friday Night SmackDown tonight, just gotta say, 500 subscribers is getting close, and I've started preparing the video for 500 subscribers. It's gonna be, what if CM Punk joins AEW? Now, I know that video was done by Planet Productions like last year, but I'm doing my own version. It's a stack of fun. I've written out a lot of the script, and you guys are gonna love it. So spread the word of the channel, get the channel to 500 subs. We're going to make the big push to 500. I'm going to drop that video. I'm so excited about it. But anyway, SmackDown tonight. Personally, this whole angle they did to open the show, I loved. And hear me out, here's why. Basically, for months, I have vilified and hated on SmackDown because they don't try anything. Now, I specifically remember saying in one of my rants, I think late February or March, how they don't try anything on SmackDown. SmackDown goes through the motions to a point where I can't believe it. And this week, we opened the show, we had like a hot opening segment where they're like outside the Performance Center, and you've got like Renee Young there covering this whole big unfolding situation. Elias has been involved in some like hit and run accident, so Elias is getting helped by doctors. You've got some police there, Elias is getting helped out, Jeff Hardy is being arrested. This whole thing was brilliant. Now, SJWs and people who are so like pro Black Lives Matter and all caught up in this mess that's going on in the United States and worldwide at the moment, people are going to act all offended and say that, oh, it's so insensitive. Look, pro wrestling in the Attitude Era, when it was at its best, was stepping on people's toes. It was offensive, it was edgy, it was doing things that are relevant to what's going on. And this was exactly that. Involving the police, involving Jeff Hardy's back history with DUIs and, all the criminal history of Jeff Hardy. I'm sure Jeff Hardy was fine by doing this angle. This angle was creative. It was something different. Normally, SmackDown would just open with a regulation match or segment. But I love this. They went outside the box. Bruce Pritchard and whoever came up with this in the creative team actually used some brain cells. They thought, okay, the tournament with the IC title doesn't make much sense. Having Daniel Bryan set to face Jeff Hardy, and then AJ Styles versus Elias. So why don't we do a big hot angle to open SmackDown, get some people talking, we can change up the bracket accordingly, and they did. And I love that. I think instead of us getting a 15-minute AJ Styles versus Elias match, and a 15-minute Bryan versus Jeff Hardy match that would inevitably end with Sheamus getting involved, they did something creative. As you're seeing on screen, this was what we got to open SmackDown. It was this chaotic, it was messy, it made you think, well, what's going on? I need to see. And that's what I want to see. I don't care that it's not, it wasn't the absolute greatest angle I've ever seen. It's okay, I'm not overreacting that much, but it was something. They showed effort. I love that from SmackDown. This wasn't like last week where they basically just threw a bunch of good matches onto the show and said, yeah, it'll be a good show. And people said it was a good show accordingly. This was simple. It was fun. It was effective. It involved a bit of logic with Jeff Hardy and his criminal history. Got Elias out of the tournament. You can frame Sheamus as the one who did this. And then at the end of the show, they kind of had Jeff Hardy get involved with the ending and cost Sheamus, so they're drawing it back to Sheamus and Jeff Hardy. I really love that opening segment. It was something fresh, unique, different. So that was the main talking point for Friday Night SmackDown. It really was. Outside of that, SmackDown this week was a fine show. It was like the opening, this whole thing that I've just gone on about for like 3 minutes, I loved. I thought it was really damn good, and the rest of the show was kind of fine. So without further ado, I'm just going to get into this. Basically, we get this opening, which I've just ran over. It was a really fun, hot opening to the show, so they do that. Then we get this whole thing where, literally, what was it? Actually, sorry. Braun Strowman was like also involved. He was a witness in this whole thing, which is something to note down, I guess. Basically, Strowman talks about how the car rolled up out of nowhere. A dude jumped out of it and ran off, and he called 911. He hopes Elias is going to be okay. Then we cut to Jeff Hardy being helped along by cops. We see Jason Jordan, so Kurt Angle's son. We see Jamie Noble, a bunch of guys handcuffing Hardy and taking him away, putting him in a squad car, and they drive off. Then we see, as you can see, Elias loading into the ambulance. So that was really good. Okay, it really was. Then we see Adam Pearce giving a locker room a briefing about Elias. Elias is going to be out for the night. Then we find out Jeff Hardy's been arrested, obviously. So AJ Styles says that makes Styles versus Bryan the IC title tournament final. Bryan's like, I'm not a coward. I want to actually wrestle a match in the semi-final. And I love AJ Styles being like, Well, you're an idiot. Why would you? It's logic. It makes sense. The heel says to the babyface, why are you wrestling a match when you don't need to? And the babyface says, I'm not a coward. It's simple, effective, and it's creative. It's logic. Thank God. So I love that. Then we got a battle royal where all the guys, like a bunch of just kind of random SmackDown guys, had an opportunity to get a tournament spot against Daniel Bryan, which this was ultimately won by Sheamus. Basically, the final lot of guys, it was Sheamus, Jey Uso, Shinsuke Nakamura, Cesaro, and Chad Gable was like the final five. We got a mini bar kind of reunion. That was cool. In the end, we get Sheamus, bro kicking Jey Uso, same thing. Jey Uso off the apron. So Sheamus versus Daniel Bryan, the WrestleMania 28 opener, 18-second squash rematch is happening in the main event of SmackDown. So that was really good. Then after that, we go to the New Day and a moment of bliss hype. Then we get Sonya Deville doing some shadow boxing. That was fine. Then we see Chad Gable arguing Cesaro over his elimination. Cesaro mocks Chad Gable's size. So Chad Gable's on TV. Finally, Chad Gable is here. Bruce found Chad Gable. So gotta love that. Then we got Lacey Evans versus Sonya Deville. It was fine. Basically, in her promo earlier on, Sonya Deville was like, oh, I'm calling out all these blondes, which I love that. It's something. It's Sonya Deville, a heel, calling out WWE's blatant blonde agenda, where all of these blondes are getting prominent spots in the women's division. Lacey Evans, Mandy Rose, Dana Brooke, Carmella, take your pick. There's so many of them. Eventually, Charlotte Flair probably. When inevitably Charlotte Flair is the Raw Women's Champion or the SmackDown Women's Champion, Sonya Deville can say, I'm sick of people like you, I'm going to take the title. It's just great stuff. So, Sonya Deville, Lacey Evans, they end up going to a double countout. The match was whatever. So they do a double count-out finish, keeping both women strong, I guess. It was what it was. I didn't really care too much, but it's good to see Sonya Deville in such a prominent role. Then, after the match, Lacey Evans throws Sonya Deville into the announce desk, ribs first. Sonya recovers and says she fights on her own terms and she walks off. So, that was really good. Then, we got a Forgotten Sons promo. Wesley Blake. My speech is so bad today. Wesley Blake talks about being raised up, unto others and whatnot. These Forgotten Sons videos are really good. So, yeah, as you're seeing lately, SmackDowns actually have some fun, noteworthy stuff. Finally. It's only taken them about 7 months since the move to Fox, but they're finally improving. So, from there we got the Moment of Bliss segment. Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross interviewing the New Day, which was fine. Basically, Big E and Kofi had Shad Gaspard tribute armbands. That was a nice touch. They're doing this whole kind of long-winded segment. The New Day bring up the Forgotten Sons and the SmackDown tag titles. Then Bliss and Cross, they mention the women's tag titles. Sasha and Bayley come out. They do this kind of back and forth. It's just going on and on. Bayley says something, Sasha gives her a sideways look. They're still doing this slow burn towards their feud. It's whatever. Then we get Alexa Bliss versus Sasha Banks. The main thing you need to know for this is that Nikki Cross was on commentary, and as JD from NY would say, Nikki Cross was doing her Lexa. That was just all. Well, that's all we got really. Bayley and Lexa on commentary, and then Alexa Bliss versus Sasha in the ring, which the match itself was fine. Sasha Banks getting the win by pinfall off a sunset flip was good. So yeah, it was what it was. That was fine. Then we got Cesaro versus Chad Gable. This was it was fine. The match itself was good. In the end, Chad Gable wins with a rolling sunset flip. So that's the popular finish tonight on SmackDown. This match was a bit of fun. You're seeing the finish now, the rolling sunset flip. Good to see Chad Gable back on SmackDown as the tie looks less ridiculous. It doesn't look as horrendous as it used to. Then we got this, which this whole thing was ridiculous. This was made for all these inbred virgin wrestling fans to watch. This was pretty cringe. I like kind of what they were going for, but it just came off really a bit too over the top for my liking, but at the same time, I like over the top content, so I'm not going to be too hypocritical. Basically, Mandy Rose laying poolside in a bikini. We get Otis coming in, dipping his foot in the water, being like, oh yeah. And then we get a bunch of this stuff. We could just get them, making out, and they're in the pool. It's, some people are going to absolutely love this. Some people who just can't socialize or whatever. It was a fine, alright, interesting kind of segment. That's the best. It was interesting. So then we get Kurt Angle hyping up Matt Riddle debuting on SmackDown, which that was really good. I love that they're kind of packaging Kurt Angle with Matt Riddle in a way, using Kurt Angle to introduce Matt Riddle to the mainstream. I think that's really cool. And then we got our main event, Sheamus versus Sheamus versus Daniel Bryan, IC title semi-final in the tournament. This was a good match. Mid-match commercial disrupted the whole flow of the match, but The match itself, it was fine. I think that the crowd being a SmackDown made this, half entertaining. In the end, Jeff Hardy made his way down somehow. That didn't make much sense. Jeff Hardy, who'd been arrested, all of a sudden comes back randomly, distracts Sheamus. Bryan pins Sheamus. So Bryan Styles is the final. That's the correct decision. Sheamus, Jeff Hardy. The build continues off the back of a hot angle on the show. So this is all I could really ask for on SmackDown. Really, really, really good stuff. I'm really happy I actually went in this direction. They did something creative, something fun, something engaging. So that was Friday Night SmackDown for May 29th, 2020. How would I rate this show? I'd say it was, this show was better than basically every other SmackDown I've seen in the past 4 months. To be quite honest, the hot angle to open, a bit of logic being used, stuff during the show that didn't insult my intelligence, a bit of creativity. The Mandy and Otis by the pool thing was outside the box, so was the opening. Kurt Angle introducing Matt Riddle. Overall, SmackDown is actually doing stuff I'm enjoying now. Who'd have thought? When you don't produce complete filth, you might actually get people to like your show. So, if you've enjoyed the video, be sure to like, comment, sub. You guys know the drill. Keep that grind going to 500. Let's get there as soon as possible. Like, comment, sub. See ya.